We wrote a business plan just in case we needed to go out and apply for any money. And we wrote it and we were way off. We said we were going to do like $250,000 in revenue in the first year. And we had these grand schemes. We did $26,000 in the first year. So we were way off. So we had to kind of reevaluate.
Missoula Podcast, episode 115. Stephen Russett, how are you, man?
I'm doing well.
Matt Cavanaugh, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's been a long time coming. Glad we finally were able to connect. You're traveling quite a bit these days and raising kids and a family and a business. Let's go back way back to the beginning. Where are you from?
I was born, bred, and raised in Sidney, Montana.
Sydney.
Yep, beast of the east.
Yeah. Almost North Dakota.
13 miles, 13 miles from the North Dakota border. Spent a lot of time in North Dakota for a lot of different sports growing up because of it. 13 miles to the North Dakota border from Sydney. My dad was an optometrist in Sydney. Did all the fun kid stuff there, football, baseball, hockey. Traveled like anything else, but travel then is different than travel now, from what I'm told. My parents thought that going to a baseball tournament or a hockey tournament was travel, your vacation for the summer. But now they're learning differently, looking at us when we go somewhere else. And I said, well, we're on vacation. Like, we're not doing anything, though.
Yeah. I mean, Steven, remember when we were kids, like spring break was just a week of no school, hanging out in town with your friends. And now it's like, you better be going to a destination and your kids expect it.
Yeah. We didn't
wild.
even get a spring break. Sydney, some of the Class A schools, they don't even do a spring break. So we never even really had anything like that. We would hope for a snow day. I mean, being in Eastern Montana, we only got a foot of snow. It's not enough. I think I remember one snow day in all my years in school there. And it wasn't even the worst one we ever had. There were a lot of ones that were a lot worse than that, but that's the one we got a snow day on.
What was it like growing up in really rural America, Sydney, Montana? You said your dad was an optometrist. Your mom work? Was she?
She worked at my dad's. She ran my dad's office. She was kind of the boss around there, made sure everything went smoothly. When we were kids, she worked a couple days a week and then was a stay-at-home mom with us. My dad's from Flaxville. My mom's from Scobie. So you go even smaller. They're from smaller town and brought that there. So Sydney was the big city to them. And it was great. I tell people how much I enjoyed growing up in small town Montana. We knew everybody. It was safe. We didn't lock the doors. You'd go into the gas station, leave the car running. You just leave it in the middle of the winter running. You didn't worry about anything like that. Friends that I had then, I'm still on a text chain with most of my high school friends that every day we talk. And so it's very different talking to my daughter who's in high school and from my high school experiences. Obviously my high school was a lot smaller. I think there was 130 kids in my graduating class, but I knew every single one of them. And I had one the other day that is looking at getting married in Maui. And I was like, I think I could help you with that. And just because, I haven't talked to her in a little bit, but I knew her and hung out with her a bunch in high school. And so I would help her out for that.
When you were growing up, what was the dream for you? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up, or where was your road leading? So you thought?
Well, my dad would have liked us all to be an optometrist, and none of us did. So he didn't retire until...
How many siblings did you have?
I have an older brother and a younger brother. We're all 5 years apart. My older brother works for a federal agency, and my younger brother works in compliance for one of the banks here.
How many optometrists can Sydney really have?
They had two.
Okay.
But at one point when I was a kid, my dad's practice was the third largest practice in the state of Montana, because he serviced everything up to Scobie and Flaxville and Plentywood and into the North Dakotas. And, there were guys in Glendive 50 miles away, but my dad worked 5 to 5.5 days a week. He knew when the college kids were coming home. So he'd work Saturdays. He'd work half day Saturdays when the college kids would come home, just because he would accommodate it. And the other optometrist who was in town, his son was my age and we played sports together. He worked 4 days a week. He just didn't work the same schedule my dad did. And he worked and worked and worked, which is probably where I got a lot of my work ethic from, was how much time and effort he put in. Now, I would say it took away from some of his time at home with us too. Like, my mom took us to sports. Yeah. My mom taught my brothers and I how to throw baseballs, things like that. But my dad was still there. He just wasn't the one teaching us all those things.
So what did you want to become if it wasn't optometry? Is that a word? Optometry?
I told people I went to school I never really had a plan. I started working restoration when I was 15. I started doing what I do now at 15 years old. There was a company called Restorex in Montana in Sydney. A guy named Ben McDowell, huge supporter of the hockey program, so gave me a job. And I had to get a job because my parents fired me from their optometry office.
What'd you do?
I was their file boy. This is before HIPAA. Before HIPAA was a big thing, I would go in and I would put every morning, the front desk gals would take the files out. This is before computerized stuff was really taking off. This is in the mid 90s. And they would take out all the day's files, 7 or 8 of them for whoever he was going to see in these little mini files. And then he would see them and then he would put his notes in and then I would have to go put them all back in their files. And the summer when I was 14, 15 years old, the Legion baseball team needed a backup catcher. And I was a catcher growing up a lot of times. So they called me up and asked me to come try out and do some things. Well, I made the team. Well, the problem with it is the Legion team and the Babe Ruth teams had drastically different schedules, whereas I could play Babe Ruth baseball, work at my parents' office, and do everything else. Well, I couldn't do that with the Legion team. So I said, well, I'm going to go play baseball. I can't work anymore. And so they were like, well, you're fired then. So it was pretty simple. But then they said, but you still need a job. Oh, okay. Well, that's going to make it kind of hard. So I walked across the street. That's where this other company was, literally across the street from my dad's office. And I said, Ben, I need a job. Well, what hours can you work? And I named these random hours. And he said, okay, great. That'll work. And so my first job was detailing vehicles. He had a contract with the local Chevy dealership for all the used vehicles that would come in. They would detail them for him. And that was the first job I had for him. And then I just worked my way through it all the way through high school, my summer and winter breaks in college. So I never really knew that I wanted to own a restoration company by any means. I worked for a couple different
Did you
ones.
enjoy cleaning cars? Like, was that?
I do.
Did you enjoy the
I
job?
love washing so I take my own this new building we built has a wash bay. It's got a diesel pressure washer, a wash bay. I love going out there and washing it and sitting and cleaning the cars out a little bit. And my kids, I work with them on doing it. Addie has got her first car and she's pretty anal about it. She's really watching like how clean she keeps it and all the trash in it and stuff. So that's good.
It's like, Matt, our marketing director here, how many times have you washed your truck today?
Yeah,
It's right.
That's why I love these new ultimate washes at all the car wash places, because then I'll go wash it 2 or 3 times a week.
Right.
And I'll wash it at my office.
That's awesome.
So if it goes like 2 or 3 weeks, when we were in Hawaii, it just sat out in front of my house and it hadn't been washed before we left. So as soon as we got home, I washed that, my side-by-side, a boat, all this stuff that was sitting out there and all the dust and stuff from being gone the whole time.
So is that sort of personality mixed with your experience of, are you like an organized, clean freak sort of guy?
No.
No.
And if you ask my wife, ask Trisha, I'm not organized at all. Okay. I have terrible ADHD. I'm the furthest thing from organized. We have to live on our skylight calendar because of how disorganized I am, to the point where she has to ask, did you put everything in today? Did you schedule everything on it today? Did you? Because I have our office calendar, that, and everything else that goes on around us to try and follow along to. Organized, tidy. Yeah. I'm not by any means a slob. I mean, I'm not walking and dropping by any means. I like to have things picked up. I like our office to be clean, the shop to be detailed and stuff like that. I don't like people to have to pull up and see it in any type of disarray, because we get people in our industry that want to come, especially now that we built this new facility, they want to come tour it. And I don't want them to have to see it in any type of disarray. So sure. We have a shop manager who does a pretty good job with that. He knows, and Mark, my VP, he knows I'm the same way too. So he does a really good job of making sure it's a certain way.
So you graduate from Sydney High School. Mm-hmm. Where'd life take you from there?
Right here. I went to school at the University of Montana for my first 2 years.
How'd you end up here? Why Missoula?
So my older brother, Chris, came to school here in 95. And that's what my first experience with Missoula really was. Is he came to school. His wife came here after school. She graduated a year before he did. And then he followed her here. So I had been out here a bunch.
95 was a good year for the University of Montana.
It was. That's this year's theme. Party like it's 95.
Years.
Yeah.
Right.
So I got to experience a lot of that his first year here. He joined a fraternity here in town, which then, ultimately I joined the same one coming through. Got myself here, met a lot of people through him in that 5 years between when he started and when I came in. So I came to school here, played a little club baseball because growing up, I played baseball, football, and hockey. And I I was probably best at baseball, but the one I loved the most was hockey. So I had a couple of offers for some little junior colleges to play baseball. One of them was only 50 miles from my parents. So I said, nah, it's pretty close.
We need some space.
This could be a bad deal.
Sure.
So I came here, played a little club baseball, just kind of went through the motion, joined the fraternity house, and then maybe found myself enjoying life too much after my second year of school. So I transferred schools to the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks. Went there for 3 years.
What were you going to school for? What was your major?
Well, I was in industrial technology, actually. I was in business at the University of Montana. And when I got out there, they had an instructor there that I just fell in love with. He was an awesome guy. I learned how to weld all the different types of welds, which has been beneficial in life. I mean, I don't do it all that often, but if we need a little repair done, I can hop in, take care of it. A lot of mechanical based things through that, but it's a business portion, but it's industrial technology through their school there. And then my ex-wife finished her schooling and we took a job back in Missoula. So it brought me back before I had a chance to graduate from UND, which gave me my second passion in sports, though, is I cheer for two teams, the Montana Grizzlies football team and all their teams, and North Dakota Fighting Sioux hockey. I don't miss anything those guys have. I have apps to make sure I'm watching whatever games I can't miss for both of those schools. Came back and I needed a job because I tried to transfer some of my credits back. And because of whatever the transfer stuff was, I was going to lose like 12 credits, which pushed me back like another year from getting out of school. So I took a job working for a local restoration company. Worked for them for 2.5, 3 years. And throughout that process, I brought all my experiences from the restoration company I'd worked for as a kid. Was able to move up, do things with them that a lot of people couldn't, because I'd seen Restorex was a large loss company. So they did national catastrophes. So when Grand Forks flooded in 97, the tornadoes in Dallas, Fort Worth, those types of things, we packed up and went to big stuff.
Gotcha.
Right before I went to college, a hospital in Mitchell, South Dakota flooded. And so we got called up in the middle of the night, drove through Sturgis during the rally at 2:00 in the morning, which was exciting. And then went and spent
probably saw some things,
some nudity that you wouldn't expect to see on the back of a bike. And I'm 18 with my buddy who's 18 that we work together, and 2:00 in the morning, you'd think you should be tired. And I'm like, I kind of am scared. You're surrounded by motorcycles and we're hauling a 1-ton van with trailers, all this stuff through this in the middle of the night. But learned a ton on that job. The x-ray room flooded. 50,000 x-rays got wet from a heavy rain, and it was in the basement. So we spent 10 days packing them in alphabetical order, shipping them out on refrigerated trailers to California to be dried, brought back to Montana so then they could be reorganized and recreated. So that was the job I took before I went to college, which was cool because then he kicked us out a huge bonus. So I had a bunch of money to go to college on, which was super nice. But those were the experiences I was able to bring to another company and even to my own, obviously, moving forward. So took a job with them, worked and just wasn't thrilled with the way they did things, which, each to each their own. Companies can do things however they want. And so I thought I could do it better. And I was 17 and a half years ago. And here I am today. I own Five Valleys Restoration.
Matt, what do you think it was about restoration that just kind of fit with you or your personality? Or, obviously you kept getting drawn back to that. Was it just the experience you had in high school, or do you think there's something about it that meshes well with who you are?
I've told people so my dad was a volunteer fireman, and I used to remember watching the rush of the firemen running out the door. I've always said, if I wasn't doing what I did, I would love to be a fireman. So going back, like maybe a fireman would have been the answer. Cause I loved, with my dad being an optometrist, I didn't love the fact that he was an optometrist. I loved him because he was my dad, but I loved that he was fireman. I have all of his firefighter paraphernalia hanging behind my office and my desk, his overalls, his name patches, all that stuff I have hanging behind my desk. The rush. So when someone would call at 2:00 in the morning, hey, I got water everywhere. It's a rush because it's an emergency service. There's no life or death on the line there by any means, but it's people at a bad time in their life and you get to go help a little bit. And so it just kind of kept building off of that, the rush of getting to the office, getting your stuff loaded and being there for somebody. And then it turned into, well, I'm pretty good at this. Like, I really like this, and I'm good at building relationships. I'm good at drying homes and fixing homes. And just kept building on it and building on it. When I started at 17 and a half years ago, 92 Ford Ranger. The reason we're green is because it was a Forest Service green pickup that I had bought from my dad, and a 1991 Ford Econoline with a diesel powered carpet cleaning machine in it. And that was how we started the business. And it just was the rush. I never intended to grow it to a staff of 30 running out of a 8,000 square foot facility, running 20 plus vehicles. That was never my intention. Of course, you start a business to make a few bucks, but as it kept growing, we're pretty good at this. We're pretty good at this. And we're in an industry where you can't just stop one day and go, oh, you know what? I think we're just going to service the clients we already have. Well, they may never need us again. So it's kind of,
and there's almost that tension between when somebody calls you at 2 a.m. because of that water, they're having a terrible night. Mm-hmm. It's horrible. It also creates an incredible opportunity for you and in business. And that's why you're in business. And so your best day is oftentimes somebody's worst day. And how do you live in that tension of, wow, this is an awesome job. This is great. But also there definitely has to be some care and empathy for the emergency that's taking place.
The emergencies, and they're all different everywhere. You know, we talk about a house fire is a house fire in any place in the world. A fire is a fire, but a flood, you know, you go to floods in Hawaii, for instance, when I'm over there, and they're like heavy rains that came in or a leaking fridge, whereas we expect our floods or our major water loss season is frozen pipes. You get a suppression system that freezes and pumps out 500 gallons a minute. Like that's a different type. And they're all different everywhere you go. My mom and dad still do it, and they've had multiple homes in Las Vegas. And years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years into business, my mom called and said, "Hey, we got mold all over." I'm like, "In Vegas? You know, it's the desert. Seriously?" Right. But you do any research on the science of it, and mold is ubiquitous. It'll grow anywhere. It's just what type of molds are growing. Like what I look for here in a home versus what we were looking for there, two different things. Yeah. So their air conditioner had leaked, filled up a closet, and they're only there half the year. So the half of the year they aren't there, it's 115 degrees outside. So, and my little brother had graduated from MSU, but was going to UNLV for his master's degree. And so he was living in my parents' house and he had found this. And so she had called a local restoration company and they wanted like $25,000, this little teeny closet. And she's like, "Can I fly you down there?" And I'm small enough in business where I'm like, yeah, I'm not like super busy. I'm sure I could sneak away for a day or two, whatever. So she bought me the Allegiant like Friday to Monday, went down there, demoed the place out with my little brother, went down to Home Depot and found some guys that could drywall, put it all back together. And they were the cost of me, some cash and my flights down there out of it. But learning that it's just so different everywhere. Yeah. The tragedies and losses, because you know, if you look at the things we do water, fire, mold, but we also do trauma and all those things. And if in any way you look at it as somebody has to do it, somebody has to clean this stuff up. And a homeowner, with no offense to a homeowner, a lot of times they have no general knowledge on how to do this kind of stuff. So if you know,
two of us,
you can go rent an air mover at the rental places and put it on a wall, but you don't have any idea what it's doing. You don't know how it's drying. You don't know if it's dry. You don't know any of those things. We see that with fires in town where people will try to do it themselves, or maybe some handymen will jump in, and that's fine. That's good that they're trying to help out. The problem with it is the way odor works and smoke works is you've got a building that's 500 or 600 degrees inside there during the fire or hotter. Well, that smoke and odor is going to do different things at that temperature. So you can go in and clean and paint over whatever you want. But when it gets hot and humid outside and it starts smelling again, that's just your proof maybe you didn't get what you were supposed to get done. So it's part of we're very specialized. And that's, people often say, "Oh, you guys are in the insurance world." Well, we are, and we have to deal with insurance companies. So we understand what they expect, what we expect, and more importantly, what we're expect to get for our clients, like how to make them so that they don't have to call us back.
Let's hit pause right there. Go to rapid fire questions. Matt, what is your first initial memory of Missoula, Montana?
My first initial memory of Missoula was I came here maybe 4 or 5 months after my brother was here. And I just remember Zimmerino's Pizza was the first thing we went and had downtown. Just remember the kind of the ambiance, because then when I came back to school there years later, it was still open, but it was only open for a little bit longer because I came here in 2000. And so that's kind of the first restaurant I really remember about coming here. And just that and what North Reserve used to look like. I remember going to Target with my brother, and that was all that was there. And there was nothing else. I still talk about that because I drive by it every day. I'm like, 25 years ago, this looked different. And 30 years ago, it looked even more different. Yeah. Tell my kids that, and they're like, no, it didn't. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
How much has changed.
What's your favorite coffee spot here in Missoula?
So the Loose Caboose, I love them all. We love all of them, but we have a sweet little gal named Kinley. Kinley Brandt is our neighbor, and her dad, Jeff's the old fire chief. And Kinley works at the Loose Caboose, and we see her every day. So she is, and our kids, instead of calling her Kinley, they call her Kinoley. So we stop and see her as often as we can at the Loose Caboose.
What's your favorite restaurant in Missoula?
Oh, I've got a lot of them. I was always a big Staggering Ox fan. My daughter went to a camp in Helena, Addie did, and we were at the lake, and she was sending us pictures that the gal that took her, they went there, and she was just taunting her mother and I. It was awful.
That's one of the mysteries of the world. How is Staggering Ox still open in Helena, Montana, and not Missoula?
I think there's one in Billings too. I think there is. I'm not sure if it stayed open or not, but there was even after ours closed.
We need a road trip.
Yeah, it's really with the ones outside of that, we're big. Like Trish and I like going to 1889. We really enjoy going to have dinner there. We were a fan of the Pearl. It was super sad to see that go. Yeah. I remember going to the Iron Horse as a kid. It helped some of the guys from the fraternity house may have worked there, so it drew me in there when I was a little younger. But those, I'd say 1889 is our choice if we want to go eat somewhere right now.
What zip code do you live in?
808.
What is or I guess I should say, what do you love most about Missoula?
Coming from a small town, I still like the small. Missoula is 70,000+ people, but you still have a small town feel where I can. It might annoy my wife sometimes when we walk in somewhere and we know a bunch of people, but I enjoy that. That it reminds me of being when you walk down the streets of my hometown and 9 out of 10 people. I feel like I know a lot of people in Missoula. Even when we travel, people say, "Oh, I know the so and so is from Kalispell or Polson." I'm like, "Oh yeah, we met those people before." Like just the world that Montana and Missoula is.
What's the population of Sydney?
Oh, at the peak of the oil boom, it was just under 10. I hear. But growing up, it was anywhere from like 4,700 to maybe 5,200 people, like pretty consistently.
It's wild.
Yep.
What's the weirdest thing about Missoula to you?
That's a list a mile long. The diverse group of people you won't find. It's so weird how this is the most diverse group of people you'll find in any city and towns you go to. Missoula has just from one end to the other. The amount of Subarus in this town is weird. I mean, my mom drives a Subaru. I harass her about it.
Have you seen the one Subaru with all the bumper stickers on the back around town?
Yep.
Matt, is there a particular book that you've read that has made a significant impact on your life?
Yes. Going through business, you do what you think you can do your best, and you try to make the right decisions. And then I read Extreme Ownership from Jocko Willink, and I'm working on his second book right now. Our office we do a book club. Like we try to do a book club, and some of the guys like to read and some of them don't, but we do it with our management team. And we did this one. We did Extreme Ownership probably 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And I read it, and then I read it again. And that really took off on like my change of how I was reading things. Because a client would call and I'd be like, "Oh, so-and-so was at your house. Yeah, I'll go talk to him. This won't happen again." Now it made me rethink to say, "Oh no, I'm not going to do things that way." The client would call and say, "I'm not happy with this." Well, that's on me. I can't believe that happened. I will make sure this never happens again, and I will get to the bottom of it. And then I don't go down and light that person up. You sit down and go, whoa, what happened? Why did this happen? And let's make sure it never happens again. And I've seen our guys have a different approach to things too, because it's easy to throw people under the bus if they don't know you're doing it. Right. Like it's not fair, but it's easy to do. But from a consumer standpoint, if I see a business doing that, especially now, it really frustrates me because I try not to say, oh yeah, that was so-and-so. No, I want to take the responsibility for it. Show that person, like, ultimately at the end of the day, I am responsible for it. It's mine. My name's on it. Like it's my responsibility. Stops with you. Which has changed the way I read books though too. Like there'll go chunks where I won't read for 2 or 3 months. I'll just come in and plop down and go to bed. And then this summer I started reading again. I read The Luckiest Man Alive, about an Auschwitz survivor, which really read some things. I mean, knowing everything I do, I love World War II history, but even reading into that, he was a German Jew that, I mean, I haven't read a book that quickly. I read it in like 2 days, and I haven't read a book that quick because I always fall asleep. So I really took off on that one, but I've been telling a lot of people about that this summer, about just the eye-opening experiences that one creates, about how we treat each other. So going back, extreme ownership would be probably that one. And then I went and Jocko spoke I went to a Ramsey Entre Leadership Conference in Orlando, and he was the keynote speaker, the last day speaker, which was pretty sweet, which I thought he would be the best one, but they were all, it was Jay Leno was the comedian that spoke. His jokes are amazing. He's dyslexic. He never wrote his jokes down. Always just remembers them. I mean, and I've been to a lot of comedians, and that I was rolling when he was speaking to the group. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So take us back to this decision to go out on your own and start your own business. How did you get to that point? And what were some of the challenges or fears before you took the leap into ownership?
So it was something that I think it was leading up to. Before it happened, I remember interviewing with one of the companies, the company that I had left to start my own. And I had told those guys, I said, I want to own my own company someday. And I didn't really know what kind of company, but I'd been in the industry a long time. So I probably knew it was leaning towards there. And then leading up to it, just looking at what I wanted to do, trying to create something for my family. I bought a house. My Addie turned 17 in a couple of weeks. So she was literally ready to be born when this all came to. And so I initially was going to have a business partner. The guy that I worked for in high school, we were going to start what's called Restorex of Western Montana, and kind of started laying the framework out. Got my first landlord, Nick Tabor, lined up. Nick and Bill were my first landlords. At the Tabor Truck Sales building out in East Missoula.
Nice.
And with about a week to spare of officially starting, I got a call from him, and he said, "Hey, I just got the first bill from the Yellow Pages. I'm not doing this." Well, in Sydney, you could take a Yellow Book page out for like $300 for the year, and you get a full page. Well, here it's expensive. I mean, it's thousands upon thousands upon thousands for a quarter page ad.
What year was this?
2007, 2008 range.
Yellow Pages were still a thing.
Oh yeah.
2000. Wild.
Yeah. Still are. They still produce them they come knocking all the time. Yeah. And so all of a sudden he's like, I'm going to come get my equipment. He's in Sydney, 620 miles away. I'm in here. I already have the building leased and everything. And so okay, that's bad. Okay, how much you want for this equipment? And he shoots off a number, and I said, well, I don't have that. So I called my dad, and I said, Dad, I need to borrow $13,000. Why? That's what I need. I want to start my own business. And I explained the whole thing, and he's like, oh, okay. So he loaned me $13,000, and I got a 91 Ford Econoline. I got 10 big mouth air movers. All my original equipment, drying equipment, was from the 80s. I still have most of it, but it just sits up on the top, and the guys call it our antiques. And then some Dry-Ease 110 dehues, which those were early 80s when those were made. So they are a long ways out. And I bought that initial equipment and just sat down. A good buddy of mine worked for Merrill Lynch, but he had been a part of the business plan writing entrepreneurship class under Rick Wishcamper. Tim Ondrock was my buddy. So he said, let's write you a business plan. So we wrote a business plan just in case we needed to go out and apply for any money. And we wrote it, and we were way off. We said we were going to do like $250,000 in revenue in the first year. And we had these grand schemes. We did $26,000 in the first year. So we were way off. Yeah. So we had to kind of reevaluate. And it was good for us, though. It was an eye-opening experience on that. And we kind of took a step back. And then I really took to my network of people. I was a Shriner. I am a Shriner. I'm a member of the fraternity house. I've join the different clubs I needed to join to try and meet some people and really dive into the community a little bit more than I already was. I coach youth sports. I was coaching hockey at the time still. So I really just took to those group of people and then started learning what I could do differently. Definitely heavy on the carpet cleaning when we started the business, just because no one knew who we were. Just kept getting after it, getting your name out there and working late. For the first probably 7 or 8 years, I did almost every on call, no matter what time of day or night it was. I would load up and go. For probably 4 Easters in a row, I got called out. I mean, it was kind of like this record I started to hold. Now I always joke with the guys on Easter. I'm like, you better be ready. You better be ready. They might call. So, yeah.
Was that pretty challenging time on the family?
Especially new baby at home.
Financially and
yeah, I mean, 26 grand.
You weren't around, I'm sure.
No, I had it. So because I was making so little money, I took a home equity line out against my home that I owned. I owned a home out in Lolo at the time. And I had to kind of make that work. My ex-wife at the time was working. And so we were doing our best to try and get by, but it was tough. I mean, and get 2 little kids at home. So, cause Riley was born. So Riley and Addie are 3 years apart. My 2 oldest kids are. So yeah, it's a pressing time on everything, but I just kept going. I just didn't really want to take no for an answer. And some of the challenges you talk about is having money. You start getting subcontractors. You go do a house fire for someone and you got your subcontractors that want paid, but sometimes you act as a bank when you work in the insurance world. When you're young and you don't have a lot of money, you can't act as a bank. So you got to start scrounging, finding other things to do, making sure you get those guys paid, because some of those subs are relationships I made then and I still have today are guys that I would want to go out and do work with us. So just protecting that and making sure that I didn't ever put myself first. I put, our staff when we started to have it, our subcontractors, our clients. Created a lot of long hours, a lot of long days, a lot of sleepless nights. For years, I would wake up at like 4:00 in the morning. What did I forget to do yesterday? What do I have to do today? And obviously, I have the best team on the planet right now. That doesn't happen. I mean, I can sleep through the night and not worry about much. My phone doesn't ring in the middle of the night like I used to. These guys.
Matt, you mentioned the a water damage earlier. Is that your number one phone call that you get here in Montana?
Mm-hmm.
Water
and mold. Yeah. We do a lot of fires.
What's the number one cause of the water damage typically?
Fridge, freezer, ice maker lines, and that's not just here, it's everywhere.
So I'm going somewhere with this. What's a piece of advice you could give listeners to protect their home from that number one call?
I always tell people to be more cognitive about the fact that they have water running everywhere in their home. Like if you're going to if you are insistent that you need to have a fridge and an ice maker and all these things, you better know it's there. Like I have them at my house, but I'm also someone that we don't just leave our house. We have neighbors checking on our house. My mom has a home in Sealy, up at Sealy Salmon area, and she's only there half the year. So we're making sure someone's checking that multiple times a week and checking temperatures and those types of things. Is knowing your home. Everyone has to have all these things, but then they go, oh, can't believe my fridge line broke. Well, how old is it? Oh, it's 20 years old. Well, it's like anything else. It's not going to last forever. You need to be checking that kind of stuff. And so I mean, they make water alarms now, things that'll just let that squeal out. They make a lot of things that people can be proactive with instead of reactive with it. I mean, someone from my end, you'd prefer that they're reactive because that's how we make our money.
Right.
But we also don't like seeing people in that situation. I mean, that's their worst day. And a lot of people, it's their largest asset. Their home is their largest asset. And so when something's bad, we don't want to see that, but we're there to fix it. That's the way it is.
Did you have like a big break in the business, or did it just slowly but surely get momentum?
We've had momentum the whole time, but about 13 years ago, did some work for an apartment complex in town that was just being built, that maybe had been built a little bit too fast and created some, trying to be somewhat PC on this, some microbial growth in some of the spots on the property. And so we came in and we did 9 months worth of work on one, which was big, a lot of work for us. But from that point, we really just started to go. And We also that year grew too fast, and we had some growing pains because we would put so much of our staff on that job that a lot of our longtime clients we might have maybe made upset, and we had to backtrack and put our tail between our legs and say we made a mistake because we grew too fast. And so I would say my guys, Mark, my vice president, those guys, they're really good at watching our growth, making sure that we're not taking too much on. One of the biggest things we hear from our clientele is when the frozen pipe season hits, often we'll take 40 or 50 phone calls, and we don't have the equipment to do 50 projects. Like that's a lot of equipment. And so we will just tell people, like, we will love to do your job. We would love to be the person doing your work, but we don't have the equipment, and we're not going to come over there and just suck the water up and let it sit for 4 or 5 more days until we can get to it. We want to do it all or nothing. And people appreciate that because a lot of companies will show up, drop maybe one air mover, suck a little bit of water, and then they don't see them again for a while, but they're charging them for the rent on that piece of equipment. And for many years I was like, no, let's do it that way. We want the jobs. And our guys kept coming to me and saying, no, we don't. We're the ones dealing with the fallout on this. Let's do it right. And so, listening to them, which has been something that I've had to obviously do to become successful in life, is listen to the smart people that work for us. We've had a great response from the clients that say, thank you for doing that. Like we would rather have you do it all than show up and do part of it.
Sounds like you have an incredible team. Your phone's not ringing in the middle of the night. They're responsive. They're well-trained. Where do you find great people? How do you create the culture that you have with your team? How do you develop them? What's your strategy in terms of?
I don't know that
acquiring people.
That's the magic question, I think, especially over the last 5 or 6 years that anyone would ask about employment. And we just started trying to do better in-house on training and recognizing and not holding on to maybe individuals that we didn't see anything in. We've got a lot of young guys that came out of Frenchtown High School that are started. Some of them started when they were 17 or 18 years old. Some of them started when they were 20 and 21. Now they're 27 and 28, and they're still part of our team. And they are the proof that we bring you through the system. They're managers, supervisors, project managers for us now that started as laborers in the field, and just putting some trust in those guys, and trying to understand that they will make mistakes at some point, but then now their upside is we're so lucky to have them. Hardworking guys. They understand our business, the ins and outs of it. When you're putting someone in a crawl space, in an attic, and you're crawling through Cat 3 sewage water in the middle of the night, like it's not pleasant. And so to try and make it pleasant when you advertise these positions, you can't.
Is it more pleasant if it's not 3:00 in the morning?
No.
Or is it always
you're just
horrible?
less tired when you're doing it. Okay. It's still uncomfortable.
It's still sewage.
It's still uncomfortable. Still sewage. Still tight spaces. But trying to create an atmosphere around our office. That was one thing that when I went to some of these Ramsey seminars, I really, someone 10 years ago, you'd ask me what my biggest asset was. You'd always say, oh, it's probably the clients. They're a big asset to us, and our equipment and blah, blah, blah. None of that matters. None of that. As much as you want to think that the clientele and your equipment and the fanciest trucks and yourself are your biggest asset, none of that matters. It's your people. It's your people that you get to go do and represent you every single day. That's your biggest asset. And if you don't take care of them in the slightest way, they'll go to find someone who will. I mean, it's just not always about money.
So I've been to Entree Leadership as well. So I know a little bit about those stages that you go through. And a lot of entrepreneurs are in the trailblazer, which you probably were, working long hours. The company is on your back. How was that transition to be more of a boss where you're delegating, training, pouring into people, and not coming in and being the hero on a lot of jobs? Was that difficult for you? I know it's difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs.
It still is today.
Sure.
Because you'll get people that I've day one clients, old neighbors, someone who just, if they have my cell phone, they have it for a reason. Like I clearly care about the person, or I know the person, or they trust me, I trust them type stuff. So they'll call me. I mean, a lot of people will call the office because that's the number they have, but I tend to then take that so personally to be like, well, we got to get this handled. And I've done better over the years now of cutting loose and letting, because our guys are so good at what they do, and they have, if you want to know who doesn't follow SOP at our office, it's me. And you want to know who yells at me for not following SOP, is every other person in our office, because they are so good at it.
You're the wild card.
Every time. Hey, this guy called, said he's been dealing with Matt, and there's nowhere in the system around here. I don't see his name, but he's got an estimate. I don't know where he got it. So I've had to work away from that. But the on and in was that transition, going through a couple different consultants to tell you that. And finally, it was just my wife sitting down and Mark, my partner, my VP, saying, you aren't at your best for us when you're following us and looking over their shoulders and knowing what's going on in every job. You should make sure from 1,000-foot view that everything is going the way you hope it is. Sure. And recognizing that some days are better than others. And some days you might walk into the shop and it might not look the way you want it to, but you don't get to stop the operations and bring everyone back for a cleaning day. It's not how this works. We have too much going on. We have too many people relying on us. So the on and in is still a struggle for me. I do my best. I'm absolutely lucky to have some of the best people in the industry that work with us. I don't say for, I say with, because I've worked for companies where I was told I work for them, and it always bothered me. So I go out of my way to say they're part of my team. We work with them, spend time with those guys, get to know them a little bit. But that was always my struggle, is I wanted to know what was going on every job, but because I'm not as organized as one would hope, and because of a little bit of ADHD, I'm a little bit of a squirrel. I will involve myself and get all the stats, and then all of a sudden, the next day, I'm out. I don't know what's going on that job, and it's not beneficial to the clients or to our staff.
So maybe last question for me: where do you see the direction of your company going in the future? Maybe two questions here. And then what do you hope the legacy of what you built would be here?
It's hard with the service trades right now. And we're part of the service trades. We're not, obviously not plumbers, electricians. We have competition at all angles. We have franchises. We have other locally owned companies, but we're a fairly large locally owned company in our industry, and the industry across the board has either been going franchises, private equity, or they're all consolidating and being bought up. And I would be lying to you if I said that hasn't happened to us, because it happens. We get the calls weekly asking those things, but we're very proud of what we built, and we're very proud of the local feel that we tell people we're local. We give money to the community. We sponsor youth sports. We do these things because we sell on that. And years ago, we decided we got to be better for our community. They're good to us. We got to be good to them. And so I would say moving forward, we want to keep growing. We've grown it reasonable, but we want to keep growing. We'd love to have a couple of other offices, but for me, I was always I'm not going to think about expansion until we're the best in our own market. Why would we ever do that? If we can't take care of the people that are here, why do you think we could take care of the people that are there? If we're not the best and sought after the most in our own market, I don't want to expand. Well, we're doing well, and we're working towards that. And so I would love to see that. There are some markets in the state that are open. There are a lot of franchises opening up across the state that have seen Montana for what we've seen it for after COVID. And there was a couple of restoration companies in the state that sold and kind of brought attention to people for the size they were. And, but I'd like to keep growing what we have. I like living here. I like that my kids live here, are being raised here. I like my lifestyle of getting up and going to visit with people all day, every day, and say hi to my staff and do different things. I like that. I don't know what else I would do. The legacy I would leave is if my son someday, my older daughter has zero interest. My son, I think, would have some interest in it because he likes to come down to the office and clean up and mow the lawn and be around the guys. So that might be something. He's 14. But the legacy is just a company that gave back to the community and kept, it wasn't a short-term thing. I don't want to be the guy that went and joined a board, took a couple of years in it, and then disappeared and never been part of it just because that was what I thought was best for the business. I'm doing things for what's best for my family and what's best for the community, because they're what's giving back to us as a company. When we show our face, when we sponsor these events, those same people are coming back to support us, which is what we want. So I would say our legacy just as a good quality locally owned company that continues supporting Missoula and the surrounding communities in it. So.
My last question for you, Matt. Years back, your son, you said he's 14 now, Riley. He is most famous and most known for questioning Grizz football players on Grizz Vision at halftime, his interviews.
Yep.
You know that?
I did not know that. I know Riley.
That's
now.
his son with the Pit Viper glasses on and interviewing the boys.
What a cool son.
Yeah. How did your son get so cool? That was my question.
He just took, it was funny on some of those too, because Riley does well around adults. Like our neighborhood thinks he walks on water. No matter what he does at home, they think he walks at home on water. He's pretty comfortable speaking to people when we fly, because there's so many of us, there's 6 of us. There's usually 3 and 3. If we're on the 2s, then we all have to split up. Well, he's always the random because he has no problem meeting people, and we'll get off the plane and they're like, is that your son? I'm like, yeah, that's Riley. Oh, wow. He's pretty knowledgeable and easy to talk to. I'm like, he doesn't shut up. No, he's pretty comfortable to talk to people. And that's what most of the guys would say that would interview him, and he'd still see some of them today. Just laughing. And we would go, and I think that when we interviewed Robbie Hauk, he did, but Robbie had interviewed with Riley Corcoran first, and then he came with Riley Cavanaugh. He said, hi, I'm Riley. Never seen so many Rileys out here before. Nice to meet you, Riley. It's just kind of a little comical moment because that day Riley was there interviewing everyone too, as well as my son. So it was quite comical because they all got doubled up on everything they did. So he enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. It's like anything else. We shift paths with our Grizzly sports stuff. We still love them, follow them, do everything we can. We've had a lot of that same question. People asking, is that ever coming back? Why aren't we doing this anymore? So we get that a lot.
Riley's too busy. He's got to
mow the lawn.
He's got to mow the lawn at the business and hang with the guys.
Yeah, he does.
Awesome. Well, dude, Matt Cavanaugh, thanks so much for coming in, sharing your story. Appreciate all you do for our community. And I've used you guys. We had a small carpet cleaning job this summer. And I can tell you, McKenna at the front desk, from the front call to your crew showing up, communication was phenomenal, dialed in, and you guys run a great business. So
thanks for your support. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys.